Smart 24, driving business.
We're back from the break, and you're watching a Smart Means Business. I'm Andrew Babrije, and definitely heading into the discussion of the day in line with the industrialization of the country, Uganda. And of course, being a country achieving and aspiring to ensure that it can reach the middle class status, industrialization is considered as one of the key factors to really lead to this, and also as one of the ways to exploit the raw materials locally within as a way to provide employment to the different farmers. Still, industrialization is the answer to this. Now, as of last year, 2023, quite a number of industrial hubs were launched by the president, and all these key distributed in the different regions. For example, in Bali, which were put in there with the aim of providing employment. And now the sector still too contributed 27.4% to the gross domestic product of the country, Uganda. But of course, thriving so hard with the few challenges which it's still facing in line with the pension funds, and we know that it's highly capital intensive in line with that. Now, for that reason, I'm joined with Dennis Dokoria. He's the Senior Public Relations Officer for the Uganda Development Corporation, which is quite the key investment arm of the government of Uganda, or of the country of Uganda. Dennis, it's a pleasure to have you this morning.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
It's a pleasure to be here, and good morning, viewers.
Okay. Now, the Uganda Development Corporation. I believe there are viewers out there that may not actually even have an idea what Uganda Development Corporation is. Some of them confuse it with the UDB and so many more. Maybe as we proceed, let's give the viewers a recap of what Uganda Development Corporation really is as we stretch back from 1952.
Okay, speaking about Uganda Development Corporation,
Yeah.
as you said earlier, that UDC is the investment arm of government.
Yeah.
But UDC has a long history, which comes back from 1952,
Yes.
when it was established. In 1952, the country was thinking, the British protectorate then was looking to build industry in Uganda.
Yes.
Because they had challenges, especially after the World War II, and they were struggling a lot.
Yeah.
So one thing they did is that they needed to build industry in order to enhance their economy then.
Yes.
And that drove them to set up two corporations. First was the Oil Falls Dam, and then the Uganda Development Corporation. That was in 1952.
Yes.
Now, Uganda Development Corporation was ideally supposed to help attract foreign direct investments into the country, that would lead into the industrialization in the country by offering capital and also advisory services to the people who would come and invest. And the Oil Falls Dam was ideally supposed to help this generate electricity for industrial development. That worked well.
Okay.
And ideally, UDC grew. By the 70s, UDC was actually contributing, because we have just talked about last year, industry contributed about 27.1%.
Yeah.
But by 1970s, UDC alone was contributing up to 30% or 30% towards the GDP of this country.
Oh, yeah.
Now that was big. It was controlling almost about 80% of the industry within this country. And it was employing. It was actually the second largest employer to government. When I talk about government, the government of Uganda in terms of the public service. Now then, UDC was the second largest employer to the government. So it so happened that in the 70s, you know, the upheavals that happened in this country, there came a lot of challenges in the country, and some of these institutions or companies or factories were mismanaged.
Yes.
The different areas that UDC was controlling, it was in the banking sector. I mean, you know, the banks that were owned by government, Uganda Commercial Bank, the Cooperative Bank, and all that. Those were all under UDC. In the mining sector, we had the Kilembe mines, we had most of the mines that were in the country.
Hotels.
Yes. Then the hotels, the Uganda hotels, which were dotted all over the country. We are in the hospitality sector. We were also in real estate. We owned most of the structures, the Development House, Embassy House, Amber House, most of the houses within the country. We had ranches, we were in the chemical industry. I mean, UDC was everywhere. It had a footprint in every part of this country.
Yes.
The 70s, we had most of those were affected in terms of management and leadership and all that.
Yeah.
And when it came to the 80s, there was a revival of some of these, but again, there were policy changes.
Yeah.
So government came up with policy changes, and remember we talked about liberalization and privatization.
Yeah.
So most of these institutions were liberalized and privatized.
Okay.
So after that happening, definitely by 98, most of them were liberalized. UDC almost had nothing. It was
nothing to control now.
Controlling.
Yeah.
So the institution was wound up, and that happened in 1998.
1998.
Yeah. So that was the first phase of the Uganda Development Corporation. And now we're talking about the second phase.
Exactly. From 2016.
From between that time, before 2016, government realized that the private sector alone may not be able to drive the industrialization
on its own.
So conversations started to take place on, should we revive this institution?
Yes.
It did very well. It had a few challenges here and there, but what it did outweighed the challenges that were there. And we are driving towards middle income status. We are driving towards growth of our economy as a country. So it's very important that we, again, try to focus our industrialization. Why? Industrialization is looked at as a net employer, especially in every country. And also it enhances the economy.
Yes.
It helps transform economies. The industrial sector. And that time we were in what we would call the industrial revolution. Yeah. So these conversations happened, and eventually the government decided to re-establish UDC. Why? The private sector then was facing some challenges. One, they were shy to invest in some industries or areas that were risky because they are really risk averse.
Yes.
And yet, those areas were key for the transformation of the economy in this country. Two, the private sector is so much profit motivated in everything they do, because whatever they're doing, they are thinking in terms of profit. How can we get profit
in the shortest time possible? Yeah.
And yet, sometimes the investments may take a longer period of time.
It's a process.
Yeah, because it's a process. You know, I always tell people that industrialization is not an event, because industrialization is a process. It takes time from the time you are born for you to start walking, you know, or running. So also for industry, when an enterprise is born, it takes time. There's a lot of work that has to be done for you to get there. So thirdly, most of the private sector were focusing their investments within the city or the urban areas. And yet the raw material is in the rural areas. And if we set up industry in the rural areas, it will definitely have an impact.
Okay.
So, based on some of those and many others, and also looking at examples from other countries where their industrial corporations are still operational, government took a decision that let's re-establish this organization. And indeed, in 2016, Uganda Development Corporation was re-established as the independent arm of government with the same mandate that it had in the previous. And that mandate is to promote and facilitate industrial and socioeconomic transformation in the country. So we're looking at how do we industrialize this country. And through industrialization, there should drive socioeconomic transformation. And we see the change that will happen in this country. So that is where we are, and that's how we were re-established. Yes.
Now, when you were mentioning from 1950 to, contributing about 30% to GDP, being the second largest employer, I want to understand, or the viewers actually also want to understand, now you've been re-established in 2016.
Yes.
What has been achieved so far?
Oh, wow. That is, in a short time that we have operated,
yes,
there is an immense achievement that UDC has done.
Yeah.
So probably I will just take you through some of them and would understand it from the point of our principles of investments.
Yeah.
So when we think in terms of our achievement as UDC, when we were established, we inherited a few institutions. One of them was the Kalangala Infrastructure Services, which is one that we have worked with. And when we worked with that institution, government was able to invest in that facility. It's in the services area. And provide maybe just to link the island of Kalangala, of Bukakata, to the mainland.
Yes.
Now, that island had been isolated. The people did have transport to travel to the mainland.
To the mainland, yeah.
Yeah. But when UDC partnered with the KISS, what we call the KIS, we were able to now link these two. So we put together two ferries, roll-on, roll-off ferries that ply around Bukakata Luku way. Now, what does that mean? That means you're able to transport goods and services from the island to the mainland and from the mainland to the island. Currently, those ferries are transporting all sorts of things, including foodstuff, including materials for construction and all that. And they have actually created development within the island.
Within the Kalangala.
Children who are living in the island are now able to come to school in the mainland.
Okay.
And in the evening, the ferry has to wait to take these children back to the island. So its education has been enhanced, A development within the island has grown. People have been able to access. Because you see, when you build infrastructure, there's easy access.
Easy access.
Now, beyond just the infrastructure in terms of transport, we were able to also provide electricity on the island. So sometimes we say we are the umeme of the island. Of the island.
Okay.
So working with KISS, we provided electricity. We provided solar power and generator to the island. And the island is still currently up to today enjoying that same electricity that was provided in that place. And we don't still stop there. We even tarmacked the road.
Okay.
Yeah. Those ferries are able to transport the palm oil that is coming from the island to the mainland. So it has eased. And once you do that, once you're able to transport the palm oil, then you just get to know the effect of that. It comes here, it is processed. Eventually, the country is benefiting.
People are employed.
Yes, people are employed and all that. Then also, other than the roads that we tarmacked, about 66 kilometers, we were also able to provide clean piped water.
To the island.
So also the national water
To that,
that island. So you can see just one project called Kalangala Infrastructure Services, in which UDC or government through UDC invested, has already started to transform lives. Now today you'll find hotels
on the island.
On the island, beaches, and all these people are always going there for parties and all that. But that electricity they're enjoying is coming from UDC. The water that is piped water there, and all that. So UDC has done quite a lot in that area, and we continue to support. Now, beyond that one project, in the past 4 years, we have grown from one project to 16 projects. One project, Investi project, to 16 Investi projects.
Okay.
Dotted in almost every region of this country. Our key areas are in agro-manufacturing, which takes almost 60% or so of our investment.
Actually, when you mention agro investment, it reminds me of the Soroti fruit factory.
Yes.
Whereby you've been able to get the raw materials and create the teju juice, which we see all over.
Yes. No, that's what we do, because these 16 are in agro-manufacturing, infrastructure and services like Kalangala, mineral beneficiation, which is extractives, and also we are now into knowledge-intensive industry, in other words, science-based industry. So I'll just go through them one by one. But just linking back to the example you talked about, Soroti. Now, Soroti is a very good case of one of the projects and that we have developed, or we have engaged in, that has a ripple effect towards industrial development and also socioeconomic transformation. Ideally, when we think about industry in the agro-manufacturing sector, why do we invest in that?
Exactly.
In other words, what are our key investment
driving the principles?
What drives our investments? Job creation. You see, this country is, the demographics of our country, we have a very young population which unfortunately is unemployed. And in order to contribute towards the employment, industry is one of the areas, because it's not the only area, but it's one of the areas that can drive employment. I know the services has done a lot, but also industry can also contribute. A bit about our mandate, it is very open. So we can invest in the services, we can invest in any area of the country. So industry is very key. One is job creation. Now, when you think about all these enterprises and industries and that we have invested in, for example, Soroti, they have created jobs, direct jobs. People are employed there. Over 80 people are employed in the factory. That's the first key. Now, when I'm employed, that means I have a family behind me.
Absolutely.
And that family starts to benefit from my employment. So when Soroti pays, its staff are able to take the children to school. Its staff are able to buy food, which will support somebody who's selling.
Exactly.
And buy other things.
So the income stays within
the region. So we are looking at the jobs will be created within the region. Most of the people within the region are going to earn and earn from this enterprise. And other than that, we have what we call the indirect employment. As well, which is even much bigger, because there are people who either from this farm level, the supply chain from the farm, if I'm growing my oranges, I may employ somebody to tend to those oranges.
Absolutely.
So that person also got in a job. I supply those oranges. Maybe there's a supplier.
There's a farmer.
Yeah,
down
there's a
there.
farmer.
Yeah.
Then there's a supplier who supplies to the factory. Then after we have done the production, then there is a distributor. There is a person who's going to sell in some shop and all that.
So even the service sector is thriving because of this establishment.
Yes, exactly. Because key are the people on the ground. So if the farmers are able to earn, then for us, we are happy. We have created a job, the economy in the village, in the community, the household income has improved, and people's lives have changed. And that is very key to UDC.
To UDC.
Yeah.
Absolutely, very beautiful. It's exactly 23 minutes past 9, and I'm with Dennis Tokoria. He's the Senior Publications Relations Officer for the Uganda Development Corporation. And we are, of course, examining its impact on the socio-economic transformation of the economy of Uganda. And of course, our time is a little bit fast spent. Let's take a short break. And we are returning with further details in line with the UDC, getting to understand here that what are the factors considered before they take on an investment venture, talking about the risk analysis and so many more. So more of these are coming up shortly after this break.
Smart 24, driving business.
Osmosis is coming. Osmosis, what's the money? When do you see it? Send him to Momo.
My bossy, can I borrow fuel? Biggie money, can I borrow renty? Manager, give me some caloni. Okay, what about 5K?
When you need a loan, you've got MTN Momo. Wesotinge. Use the Momo app or dial *165*5# for all quick loans. Choose from the different loan options from our partners and get one that works for you. Together, we're unstoppable.
Smart 24, driving business.
*9, definitely still watching the Smart Means Business and discussing the Uganda Development Corporation and its impact on the socio-economic transformation for the livelihoods of the Ugandans. And of course, before we went into the break, we are still into the discussion in line with the principles of investment, what drives the Uganda Development Corporation to keep on investing into the different ventures it's investing in. Maybe probably we can start on that line, on the principles that govern, that drive your investment initiatives.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, indeed, we have 5 principles that govern our investment as UDC, and that we look at when we are going to invest in an organization.
Yeah.
Now, the first principle is the principle of job creation. I talked about it before we had the break. Job creation is very key to us, and it's very important that any enterprise that we're looking to invest in or to work with is able to create jobs. Yeah. And when you talk about jobs, we're talking about both direct and indirect jobs. Now, the second principle that we focus on is the principle of utilization of raw materials.
Local raw materials.
Yes. Because as a country, we are endowed, one, in the agriculture sector, we have quite a number of products that we produce. We're into the coffee, cotton, we're into maize, we're into sorghum, we're into all these. So there's a lot that the country is able to produce because of our wonderful environment. Yes. You know, this country is looked at as the Pearl of Africa. It's a blessed country, and we have a lot of it. But the biggest challenge that has been there is most of these raw materials are sitting in the fields. You know, we have lots of land in the community, but they are not utilizing this land. They are not tilling this land. Most of the farmers are just basically growing crops for subsistence.
Exactly.
But now we're saying if we invested in an area that produces a certain raw material, that would encourage the people in the community to grow more.
To grow more of that.
And if they're able to grow more, because the market has been provided, then they'll be able to, their lives will be transformed.
Absolutely.
So they will move away from the subsistence farming more into commercial farming at a small scale, though. They can start at a small scale and keep growing over time because there is a market that is ready available. So very key is that raw material utilization is very key to us in industrialization. And not only that, we talk about raw materials, also looking at the resources.
The resources.
Uganda is also very much endowed with various resources in terms of copper, gold, you know, cobalt, marble, silk sand, and all that. So we're looking at avenues that we can be able to explore and exploit these raw materials that are available, the resources that are available. So that is very attractive to us in terms of raw material utilization. Now, the third component that we look at when we're looking at investing in an organization is the issue of supporting or improving on the trade balance position of this country.
Okay.
In terms of import substitution and export promotion. So currently we have about 7 of our enterprises we are supporting, which are into export promotion. They are actually producing and they're exporting the products. We have in Waya, we have a facility that is producing ethanol as a cooking fuel, as a green cooking fuel. Now, most people who produce ethanol are producing ethanol for alcohol. Absolutely. But here, this enterprise is producing ethanol as a cooking fuel, and they are currently selling this ethanol within the country, and they are exporting it also to Kenya. Okay. Actually, most of it is being exported
to Kenya,
and some of it is being sold locally in the country. They are located. They have an outlet at Uma Showgrounds. So we have that facility organization. We went in, supported that organization company. They are now producing ethanol. They are employing so many people. Okay. Recently, when I went there, I was actually surprised that because of the trucks that are bringing raw material, because they are using cassava as the main raw material, but other than that, they've also explored maize and sorghum. Okay. So I walked into that place and I found truckloads lining to supply material. I walked into their stores, I saw thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of tons.
It's amazing.
Of material, seated there, being processed. Even beyond just the inside even some of it was even outside. And what intrigued me is I met a lady outside because of the trucks that are supplying. This lady opened up kiosks to sell food and the small provisions, water, soda. Yes, to these people. Offloading the truck drivers and all that. So that was very intriguing. Others have built small accommodation facilities near the factory. Now that is very key. When we talk about taking technology to the people in terms of industrialization to the community, just having a factory in the community starts to create development within the area. In terms of jobs, schools will come up.
Security, police stations, formulate.
Education facilities, health facilities, all those will come up within that community. And eventually there will be development within the community. So that facility is actually exporting most of its product to Kenya, which is in turn bringing in revenue to the country. Other than resources, other than export, we're looking at import substitution. There are products that we import, and yet we could as well have manufactured them. And one of the good things that COVID taught us, because when COVID came up, we were in a dilemma, especially for the PPEs, the protective wear. We want to import protective wear, we can't find. Remember, even masks were a problem until we had to improvise by making cloth masks.
Exactly.
And other PPEs were a problem, gloves were a problem. So we have invested in enterprises that also create what we call import substitution. For example, we have an enterprise we invested in. They're making gloves. They're doing gloves, medical and examination gloves, somewhere in Namambe. And we've invested and strengthened that company to actually improve on their productivity, to increase their productivity, and they're supplying their gloves to the national medical stores. Now, these gloves would have otherwise have been imported, but now they can be bought locally. Now, we also supported and invested in a construction company, a local construction company. Now, that local construction company is now able to offer construction services within this country, road construction. And it's now competing with huge and massive international
foreign companies.
Because now they have the capacity.
Okay.
And they got two big roads now they are doing, one around Kapeka side and others. Now, that construction company, the money that we are paying, that the government is paying that construction company, would have otherwise have been taken out by a foreign contractor. Yeah. So you actually see, and these construction companies are also creating a lot of jobs. Whenever they are doing roads, they're creating jobs. So people are benefiting. So import substitution, export promotion is very key to us.
And utilization of local
raw materials and job creation. The third one is, the fourth one is the issue of regional balance in terms of investment.
Okay.
Now, as I said earlier, a lot of investment is done in the urban centers.
Yeah.
Now, what we're saying is that let's go out to the community. Let's support industry to be developed within the community. How do we develop that? We have greenfields and brownfields. Greenfields are new. We're starting from scratch. We're building it from the ground up. Whereas brownfields are those enterprises we already find already there and will come and give a hand as a government. And those brownfields and those facilities, we have made sure that we support them or establish them in different parts of the country. In the north, currently we have three investments. We have sugar processing investment in Amur, in Atiak. We have ethanol production for cooking in Noya. We have food processing facility in Yumbe. Okay. So those are 3 facilities currently, and there are more that are coming up. We have another ethanol and starch, cassava starch processing factory, which we're working towards setting up in Acholibu. We have another sugar processing factory we are looking to in Amuru. So there are quite a number of facilities that we are looking to set up. We are thinking in terms of cotton, spinning in Lira, and others. So there are quite a number of enterprises we are looking at in the different regions. For example, I'll just get that as a note. Now let's go to East. East. Currently, we have the food processing in Soroti. The famous Soroti Fruit Factory. We have coffee in Budadiri. It is in Sironko in Budadiri. We have cotton processing in Luka. Now, Luka is actually processing. In Luka, we are actually processing absorptive cotton. Absorptive cotton. Yeah. So that cotton is being supplied also to national medical stores. So initially we were importing all that cotton. Yeah. So now we are able to manufacture it and other cotton things. So even in Busoga, we're still looking to do into sugar as well in Busoga and others. Now when we go to the southwest, we have been very strong in the tea sector. I know tea is going through a challenge right now, but we've been very strong in the tea sector. We have tea processing in Chenjojo. We have tea processing in Kawarole. We have tea processing in Kanungu. We have tea processing in Kawale and Chisoro. Yeah, southwest. So we have those we are supporting there. And we have quite a number in Kampala also in this area that we are supporting, but mostly in the hospitality sector. Which is one of our areas of support, the hospitality sector. Our biggest and most recent achievement is the Speak Resort Convention Center that hosted the non-aligned movement. Yeah, that is one of the investments of UDC in partnership with Mera Group. Okay. So, yeah.
Interesting. Now, we've looked at 1952, the history, what was happening, what transpired, your contributions. Now, we've also heard from the now present, your achievements, what you've achieved, and what is on ground lately. Now, that brings me to the aspect of the master plan you have for 2020 to 2030. Now, we're talking about the future perspectives for the UDC within that line. And now it's 4 years down the road since it was established. How far have we gone in terms of achieving that? And in case, yes, wonderful. If not really, what are those limitations not to be in position to achieve the intentions by 2024?
Okay. Yes, we do have a strategic plan as UDC that we developed 2019-2020 to 2029-2030. So that is the strategic plan that guides our operations. But in developing that strategic plan, we had policy documents that we had to look at that guided us in developing that. The Vision 2040, the national development plans that the country had. We also looked at the industrialization policies of the country and all these policy documents. Yeah. So those guided our strategic plan and how we developed it. So we have just 3 key objectives of the strategic plan. And one is in the area of strengthening internally as an organization. Organization in terms of staff and all that. That is internal strengthening. The second is in terms of enhancing partnerships and collaborations. And the third is in terms of building industry. That is our core, the core area we operate. Okay. Yeah, through different
internal partnerships, industry.
Yes. Okay. So ideally, internally, we've done very well in terms of recruiting the right staff, kind of resource, the kind of staff we have been recruiting since we had the things. We've come up with policies. We have an operational board. governance is well done, management is operating effectively.
Yes.
We keep our staff trained. We're even going into digitizing some of our operations.
Okay.
Yeah, so that internally we have already done. And I think it's not cast in stone, it is a continuous process.
Yeah.
Like the Japanese say, you know, they talk about the kaizen, they say continuous improvement.
Exactly.
And that is what we are doing. The continual process. Now, in terms of partnerships, yes, we are developing partnerships with different, both international and local entities. We have gone into MOUs with quite a number.
Yeah.
Internationally, we have looked at our luminaries, like the IDC in South Africa, where we have signed an MOU with them and others. Locally, we are partnering with different organizations. Like, for example, we are working with the NSSF.
Okay.
And we're looking to set up what we call a national marketing company.
National?
Marketing company.
Okay.
Where we would like to create a market for the available materials. So sometimes you find that in the country we're having challenges where we have a lot of product, food, maybe maize or other products, but we don't have the market for it. So we're trying to say, how can we create a national marketing company that will guarantee market for those products. So you see, that's a partnership.
Okay.
We're partnering with PSFU, we're partnering with UMA and others. So locally, we're also developing partnerships and networks that can help. For us as the PR section, we are partnering with the media. We are looking how do we work with the media closely to amplify what we are doing as UDC. So that is work in progress. We are not yet there, but we are working. We are moving.
Industry,
you can see what we are talking about already. We are moving very well, because if we have started just in 2020, and we have already onboarded about 16, and we have so many over 20 in the pipeline. So we are likely to be, by the 10 years, we should be over 50 probably.
50. Interesting. Now that brings me to a tricky aspect here, most especially when it comes to revenue mobilization, because I understand sometimes the state coffers may not be a bit reliable in terms of having such, because these are industries that are capital intensive. Have you tried to look into sustainable sources of revenue in terms of sustaining the activities? This could include like bonds, issuing bonds.
Okay. Yes, ideally, probably I need to bring you to speed on what we do, what our products are as an institution. And probably from there, we'll be able to, because I've been talking about we've intervened, we have supported, but now the question will be, how are you supporting?
How are you?
Yeah, so people say, oh, you're just throwing in money, what are you doing?
Exactly.
Yeah, so we have different products that we offer as an organization. Now, key and our main product is the equity participation or equity financing. Now, when we engage in these facilities that I'm talking about, we actually invest and we in exchange for equity.
Okay.
In exchange for a stake in the organization.
You own
so we own
a share in the organization.
So if we came to Smart 24 and Smart 24 meets our principles, investment principles, and we go through the various processes, which is really a laborious process. You know, we don't just jump in there. We have to ensure that we do due diligence and thorough due diligence of the organization. We also go ahead to do appraisals. We appraise the organization. We also value the organization. So we do valuation. And eventually we can now go into the last part of restructuring.
Okay.
So ideally, when you apply to UDC and you'd like equity participation, you'd like for us to support you, definitely, one, you need to understand that our support is in terms of equity. So we don't just give loans and tell you bring collateral. We are saying, okay, we are getting in there. And when we're in there, we have an interest to make sure that this institution rises and survives. So when we talk about equity participation, does it mean? We invest in an exchange for shares.
For shares.
But we have to value your company. We have to understand this company, what is the value that this company has.
In terms of returns?
We look at your book, we look at your returns, we look at
Capture the trends.
we capture the trends, we capture the organization, assets, liabilities, because we need to know, is it risky? Because your liabilities may be very high. Now, when we invest, we know we are going into a risk. Now, once we do all that process, then eventually, and we find that this company meets our principles for investment, it will definitely impact this economy and transform this economy in terms of the principles I talked about, then an investment decision can be made. Yes, then the board would approve. Once the board approves, then we now look for the money, which is usually scarce, as you say.
Yes.
We now request the government of Uganda to provide money for that investment. So that's what we do. So the first one is equity participation. That is very, very key to us. Now, the second way we invest is in terms of asset financing. Yeah, so asset financing, we offer what we call a lease. Through lease agreement, we're able to acquire equipment or assets for the enterprise, because you may find an enterprise is lacking, maybe certain assets, or maybe it needs a new equipment in order for it to increase its productivity. And we say that if it increases the productivity, definitely you know the effect still comes back to the household.
Absolutely.
Because everything we do, by the way, everything we do, we're looking at the last man, the last mile. Who is the last man to benefit from this? And that is the person at the household. Because the transformation is at the household level. That is our key. So when we build industry, when we invest here, we're looking at how does it impact this person on the ground. So ideally, in the same light, we get equipment, we may support you to acquire the equipment, and once you have acquired the equipment, definitely that one is a lease, so that means you have to pay. Now, how do we expect to earn from this?
From that.
How we expect to earn is we expect to earn from dividends.
Dividends.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, if, for example, you have invested in an enterprise that has a turnover, maybe it makes a profit of maybe 300 billion. So, I mean, if I have my dividends in such a company, I expect that dividends come to UDC, and then that means UDC will be having money to invest in other companies. So that is a process.
Okay.
So yes, it is a process. It takes time, because when an enterprise is invested in, it takes time. And I usually tell people that, sometimes we're asking questions. Why aren't you getting this or that or this? The issue is we need to appreciate that in the last 4 years, we lost 2 years to COVID.
Absolutely.
We lost 2 years to COVID, where industry struggled. Now, industry is just at a recovery time, and it's just recovering. And because it's just recovering, we need to give it time to build, so that at the end of the day, it will start. So let's focus 10 years from now. Where would Smart TV be? Smart TV is growing. Exactly. So in 10 years, it will not be the same. It will definitely be different. So every industry that we invest in, we project the future. And what future are we projecting? How it will end up impacting the community.
From that to the household.
To the household level.
Beautiful. In the last 2 minutes,
yes, please.
You've elaborated all these wonderful investments, what is happening, and the future prospects. Do you in any way feel appreciated as a UDC?
Yes, to some extent, yes, we do feel appreciated, because the government has continued to provide support for us to invest in different entities. The most recent being the Speak Resort Convention Center, which has a big future, because the facility is there. It's going to be there for maybe 50, 100 years. How many years? And in those 50, 100 years, it's going to continue providing jobs to the Wananchi, the people of Uganda. It's going to buy bring revenue in terms of foreign exchange, in terms of MICE, that is meetings, incentives, conferences,
Events.
and exhibitions and events. So it's going to continue to impact this economy and this nation long term. So I feel, yes, as government, yes, we have been appreciated. And we continue to pray that we continue to be supported even more. Yeah, because we have quite a number of enterprises or investment-ready institutions that we have not yet got enough funding to support. But we believe that the government of Uganda will continue to give us the support, and we shall continue to invest in these enterprises and go on. Other than that, the issues of the enterprises, as long as an enterprise is operating.
Yeah. That's your legacy.
Exactly. That's a legacy. There is people are employed, people are earning, raw materials are being consumed. I believe that UDC is on the very right trajectory to revive the glory it had in the 1950s and 70s when we had an impact in industry. That a time where when people talk about industry, UDC will never miss in that conversation. Now that was what it was, and that is what we're working towards. And I'm very sure that if we keep at this pace, we shall reach there and we shall surpass that.
Amazing. It's been a pleasure to have you, Mr. Dennis.
It's been a pleasure to be here too.
All right. Now, my guest has been Dennis Tokoria. He's the Senior Public Relations Officer, Uganda Development Corporation, and we've definitely been dissecting the impact of the entity when it comes to socioeconomic transformation. And like he has elaborated, it all stretches down to the household. And for those that are willing to work with the UDC, you definitely have the principles. You should be, first of all, having a vision as an enterprise to create jobs, utilize local raw materials, and also being export promotion oriented and import substitution. That is your well to work, your well to go to work with the Uganda Development Corporation. Well, it's 2 minutes to the top of the hour. Thanks for being part of today's edition of Smart Means Business. I've been Andrew Barija. Stick around till tomorrow. Good morning.